Hello, so today I'll be showing you guys how you can fill your raised garden beds with a method called Hugelkultur. And if the method is done correctly, you can totally fill your garden beds up for free without spending any money at all. So Hugelkultur originated in Germany and is a method using organic materials such as rotten old logs, sticks and twigs, and other green organic materials. So you put them all on top of each other on layers, and as over time everything starts breaking down, it will continue to give the raised bed a lot of nutrients, so there's no need to add in any other sort of fertilizers. In order for the Hugelkultur to work, you're going to need a lot of materials for this sort of thing. In order for you to use the Hugel method, you are going to need to find yourself quite a lot of logs and quite a lot of sticks and probably some leaves as well. So the reason why we have the logs in the ground, this is what's going to give the raised beds the most nutrients over time. This is the part that's going to take the longest to decompose at the bottom of your bed. So the first part is cardboard. Now cardboard isn't part of the Hugelkultur method itself. At the bottom of my raised garden bed at the moment, I've just got a black sheet in at the bottom because it's in my new growing area. So in theory, no weeds should be able to grow underneath here. And that's the whole point of using the cardboard. If you was to use our growing bed and put it on top of here, we're going to have to put the cardboard down to try and stop any weeds or anything trying to go underneath. So I'm going to put down the cardboard anyway, because it is good practice, and I just want to demonstrate to you that putting this down first will stop any weeds or anything coming up if you are doing this on grass or soil that isn't already covered. What you do want to make sure is to make sure your cardboard has got no sticky tape on it, no ink on it, and it's not got some hazardous chemical on it. So you want to try and keep it clean cardboard if you can. Otherwise you don't want the bad chemicals and stuff affecting your soil. Now this is actually the first real step of the method, and it is by using wooden logs and putting them at the bottom of your bed to build up the first layer. Now the trick is to try and use logs that are already starting to decompose and decay, because these will break down a lot quicker than logs that have just been freshly cut off a tree. Like this one here, you can see it's already starting to decay and it's breaking off into my hands. And also as well, due to it being so soft, it's going to act like a sponge. This will basically absorb any water and keep the water retention into the ground. This is one of the bonuses of this method, is the fact it's going to keep a lot of moisture into the ground. So when there's a bit of a drought or anything, the plants will still be able to get a lot of nutrients and a lot of water through the decaying logs at the bottom of your raised beds. So now let's fill it up. So that is the first layer done, the logs just at the bottom, and it's now important that we go over it with some water. You want to try and water every single layer that we're doing to try and help get the moisture already in there. So when everything's on top of each other, the effect should start straight away. Alright, so next what we're going to be doing is putting a load of sticks and twigs down to try and fill in the gaps of the big logs. So these will break down a lot sooner than the logs, and the same rule applies to try and get some that are already starting to rot and decompose, as they will break down a lot quicker than fresh ones off a tree. And then simply all you do is just try and fill in any gaps you can in between the logs. Alright, so now that I filled it up with some sticks, we can now pour some more water on it to get it nice and wet. So this is the first layer done. The first layer is basically logs, sticks. You could also put some dry leaves down, but this is the first layer of the technique that we're using. And now the next layer is you want to use organic materials, which is your greens. So what I've got is a lot of grass cuttings that I'm going to put on top. Boy. Right, so unfortunately I don't have enough organic matter to fill up both sides of the bed. I only managed to fill up this side and only partially this side. That is one of the negatives of doing this method, is even though everything I'm using at the moment is free, unfortunately it takes a long time to get the materials to use. So I'm going to basically do the rest of the video on this half of the bed where I've got the materials for. I'm going to do the back half in my own time off camera. Right, so now we've got this side done. What we want to do is now water it again to make it nice and moist. So now that is the second layer done. The first layer of woods and sticks, and now we just put down the organic matter. Now the third layer is your soil. Alright, so this is the cool part about the method. This here is just soil for my garden. Some of it isn't the best, some of it is very clayey, as you can see here. The cool thing is about this method is no matter what kind of quality of mud you've got in your garden, this method can actually help improve the mud that you've got. So if you've got clay soil like I have, over time when this method starts decaying all the logs and the wood and stuff underneath, it actually helps the clay soil turn better really. So like I said, it doesn't matter what type of soil you've got, you can actually use it for this method. So now, let's make a nice layer of soil on top of my raised bed. Right, so now this is all our mud, and that is the third layer done. So I said you can do this all for free, which you can, which I've done at the moment. There is one major disadvantage of using this technique, and that is the amount of soil you're going to need. At the moment, I have all this spare soil in my garden, but if you don't have a load of soil in your garden, you're going to have to buy yourself some compost to put on top. So if you have to pay all this to be composted, that's going to cost you a lot of money. Just be careful, that is one of the disadvantages of this. As well as trying to collect all the materials, you also might have to pay a lot of money for compost if you don't already have soil in your garden. Same with every layer that we've done. For now, just going to give it a nice water. So now, the last layer is mulching. Not only have you got goodness coming up from the bottom, if you use mulch, you've also got goodness coming from the top now. I tend to use straw as my mulch. I just tend to find it's a lot easier to use straw as my mulch, but you can do it for free if you use dried up old crusty leaves or pine cones. There's other good examples of mulch you can get for free, but I tend to use straw, but that's just a personal preference, it's up to you. But that is the last layer in which you're going to do with this bed. But I'm not going to mulch it yet, not until I start planting stuff. But this is basically how you make a garden bed using the Hugelkultur method. But now we'll just go through some positives and negatives on using this method on filling up your raised garden beds. So some of the benefits of using this is it improves soil fertility, makes the soil in the actual bed itself a lot more better, full of nutrients. The logs at the bottom help with water retention, keeping in the moisture at the bottom, and also it helps with water drainage as well. As there's many little holes that the water can go into, it isn't going to cause root rot with the plants that I'm going to be growing into these beds. And lastly as well, when the logs start decomposing, they actually produce a bit of heat. So the plants in the ground should still get a lot of heat to help them germinate and develop nice and stronger roots if the weather starts dipping in the summer. And now the negatives, which I showed in this video by accident, is resource collecting. This is a very good way of getting a raised garden bed for free using materials from like the woods or your back garden, but they take a long time to collect, and trying to find good quality logs is quite hard as well, and trying to carry them back to your house to put them in your raised beds, and also trying to collect enough organic matter to create the second layer. And also the other disadvantage is trying to have enough soil for it as well. If you don't have any, you're going to have to go and buy a lot of soil or try and source some soil from somewhere to try and make the third layer of this technique. But hopefully this demonstration has helped you. It helps you try and fill your raised garden beds for free if you can. So I hope you guys did enjoy me trying to use the Hugelkultur method on filling up my raised garden beds.